This is Joy News Prime. In the next 1 hour is Aisha Wang, a spy. Security analyst Professor Kwesi Ening alleges Aisha Wang and some other Chinese nationals involved in Galamsey in Ghana are Chinese spies who are on an economic warfare against the country aimed at destroying Ghana's cocoa sector.
Aisha is not an ordinary Chinese gangster. She's an agent of the state. She's a spy.
Also, unregistered SIM card users begin to experience interruptions from service providers as the Communications Minister supports immediate full sanctions by the National Communications Authority. Much later, Auditor General indicts Ghana's Honorary Consul General in Houston in the United States for under-declaring visa fees collected from applicants with more than $350,000 still unaccounted.
This unfortunate development, which really mars the image of our country within the Committee of Nations.
Many thanks for staying with us. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Now, there's a new twist to this unending Aisha Wang Galamsey scandal. Director of Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesi Ening, says Aisha Wang and other Chinese nationals involved in Galamsey in Ghana are Chinese state agents who are on a mission to destroy Ghana's cocoa sector. According to Professor Ening, these Chinese nationals aim at destroying the country's water bodies, which will, to an extent, have an effect on the quality of cocoa produced in the country to give China, who are now producing cocoa, an advantage. He spoke on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM.
It's a massive institutionalized trafficking scheme enabled by high-level corruption and collusion. And we are finding this in Galamsey. In the Rosewood criminal enterprise, the Chinese merchant involved, or the state agent involved, is Huang Yangfeng, also known as Helena Wang. So what we are looking at is that this thing,
one dynasty,
these criminal enterprises are not just by ordinary people. These are state agents who are almost untouchable. Because if we go back to the 2017-2018 escape of Aisha Wang, and the argument that she has been released because we were looking for the Sino-Hydro loan, and that where she should be to be prosecuted, it could affect the loan, then Aisha is not an ordinary Chinese gangster. She's an agent of the state. She's a spy. And her expertise is in economic warfare, deliberately destroying our environment and our water bodies through Galamsey so that the cyanide and the mercury will go through our underground water, come through the food chain and destroy the cocoa crop. And we know that Japan in particular, that loved our cocoa beans, is now disturbed because they found traces of chemicals in our cocoa beans. So we need to elevate this conversation over and above, ordinary people stealing excavators.
For him, the state must act tougher against Ghanaian nationals who collaborate with the Chinese in these efforts.
Those who facilitate this are engaging in a treasonable offense because this is about the survival of Ghana. And we need to elevate this conversation and these crimes to an existential threat. Because no, in the history of this world, and I said this yesterday, do a people who are not going to war deliberately allow their water bodies to be destroyed.
Aided by their own military. Anyway.
Aided by their military, their police, and individuals who are put into positions of trust to protect the state's resources for generations yet unborn. Okay, if we elevate this to an existential threat, in which the colluders are also perceived to be causing treasonable offenses, then I think, and people are punished to serve as a deterrent,
Yeah.
then we will be getting somewhere. But right now, and I agree with Kofi 100%, excessive prohibition creates opportunities for collusion, for crime, and for flouting the law and working under the radar. And over time, we have become experts at this. We will make a law, we will make a lot of noise, but people are just going around and getting it done. So I think we need a broader conversation about how our strategic resources are being looted, aided by those in positions of authority.
Right.
So if we take the Rosewood case, for example, there are documents signed by people in the Forestry Commission aiding this criminality.
Meanwhile, we know that national security has opened a full-scale investigation into the Aisha Wang case to establish how she entered the country after her deportation and how individuals aided her. That's according to the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah. We know that the Attorney General has also called for the case docket of the Galamsey Queen and says they will begin prosecution of Aisha Wang for her past and current offences.
From our officers, it's not the 3 months you're talking about that she came around mid-August and 2nd September.
Spokesperson for the Ghana Immigration Service, Superintendent Michael Amwakwata, explaining how Aisha Wang was intercepted at the country's entry point between mid-August and September of this year. The National Identification Authority said its system flagged her when she attempted to renew her Ghana card for the 3rd time at its offices in the Ashanti region. Head of Public Relations at the NIA, Dr. Abdul Ganiyu, said she was not issued with a card because she did not provide documents to support a change of name.
Therefore, the 25th of August, when she came to change her name, and as I keep saying, we don't have Aisha Wang in our system. It was Wang Yen who now came to change that name to Wang Arusha.
The Attorney General has already served notice he will initiate prosecution against Ms. Wang in respect of her current alleged offences, as well as those of 2017 before a deportation from Ghana in 2018. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah tells Joy News Aisha Wang was picked up at her residence at Ahojo, a suburb of Kumasi.
She was in her residence at Ahojo, so she was picked at her residence. The information given to me by the security head.
He further disclosed that national security is treating the matter as a special subject given the circumstances under which the Galamsey Queen snuck into the country.
It's a special one. It borders on national security. At least we should know how she got back into this country and some other aspects like who and who aided her.
Meanwhile, founder of Eco-Conscious Citizens, Aula Sewa Asante, says there are more foreign nationals involved in illegal mining, and it's long overdue government cracks the whip.
The government must do something, but it's a bigger picture than this Chinese national. It's not just the Chinese who are breaking the law. It's anybody who wants to do so.
That's a News Desk report. Let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Norman. He's president and CEO of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, and he's also a security analyst. He joins us via Zoom. We're grateful for your time here on Joy News Prime. So for Minnie, what really or where does she draw the source of power that she has from? Because it doesn't look like she does not have the power at all. Do you get an understanding where really she's drawing her power from? Hello, Dr. Norman. Okay, we'll work the lines again and bringing Dr. Ishmael Norman on this because we've been hearing from Professor Kwesiening. For him, it appears that Aisha Wang is a spy working for China against our cocoa sector. We'll get to him shortly on this. But whilst we wait to work the lines to bring in Dr. Ishmael Norman, who's been analyzing this situation, let's head to Elembele this evening. And the Elembele Divisional Police Commander, ACP Doji Hloje, has been interdicted by the Inspector General of Police over his involvement in accusations and counter-accusations between him and the MC following the controversial missing excavators. The Elembele MCE Kwesi Bonzo is currently in police custody, and the police say he organized thugs to obstruct an operation geared at retrieving a missing excavator. Mr. Bonzo has in the last few days been on a warpath with the police in the western region over excavators seized from illegal miners. Now, 2 of these excavators were reported missing, with the DCE claiming they were in the custody of the police. The law enforcement agency dismissed the claim outright, stating that the DCE was actually a suspect in its probe. Lawyer for the MCE, Salome Erica Baka, tells Joy News the police are denying her access to his client, who has been in police custody since Wednesday morning.
From the media, your own sources, yes. I heard it on the FM station. I don't want to mention the FM station, but as I was driving to work this morning, I heard it, and that occasioned me coming to this place to see what was happening to my client. In fact, no one told me. I heard it myself on the FM station.
And so far, you've not been able to speak to your client
at all.
Not even the police as to why your
No,
client...
for the police, I've spoken with them. I've even been to the regional commander's office. He says he's here to make a statement, and so they are working on it.
And he didn't tell you why they brought him here?
I would not want to go there now.
Yes. Okay, so you are here ostensibly to do what?
Because my client has been brought here from the reports and from sources within the police regional office. He is within this place. And so I'm here to ensure that his liberty is assured and that he is made to go home and be with his family. He doesn't spend any more time than is necessary. Yes.
It doesn't look like that is going to happen today.
Oh, I believe he will go home tonight. By close of the day, he should be going on his way to Elembele. Yes.
Is it a presumption or what?
From what I have gathered, yes, from what the police is telling me.
As lawyer for the DC for Elembele Kwesi Bonzo, but we'll get to details of the story shortly. But let me take you back to our very first story. And Dr. Ishmael Norman, president of CU and CEO of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, joins us via Zoom this time. We're grateful for your time, sir. So I was asking earlier, there are a lot of conspiracy theories this time that she could actually be a spy for China. But concerns are that it appears this woman is more powerful than we are seeing. From where you sit, where do you think she's drawing these powers from?
Well, I think we cannot label whatever hypothesis that is out there as a conspiracy theory. I think what Professor Annin was alluding to is they are factual. Some of them are actually quite factual. So the fact of the matter is that our national security protection for our farming assets, cocoa, redwood, whatever it is, gold, diamond, we're not doing a good job at that. And our water bodies are actually being totally infringed upon. So very soon we may be importing water into this country, and most likely will be coming from China. So some of these nexus that analysts try to connect, they are really real existential threat. And our national security talks the talks. We hear a lot of performative statements and propaganda, but we don't really see the protection of our farmlands, our river bodies, and so on and so forth. So Aisha 1 is actually, like I said earlier, is a metaphor for the broken down system that we are running in this country, where anybody can come in here and go into Galamsey with the acquiescence of our chiefs and opinion leaders in the villages and towns where these minerals are. I think this is a very appalling show of leadership in this country. It shouldn't be the duty of the president alone. It should be the duty of everybody.
Do you get a sense that nothing will happen with this particular situation? Because as it stands now, we are yet to hear from national security in particular on what exactly the situation is. And there are concerns that it may be actually that Aisha Wang was never deported.
I hear the position of the minority, Honorable Ablako, a very good man, very patriotic Ghanaian. I hear also that it is possible within the whole fracas that Aisha Wang was probably just cocooning somewhere in Togo or a nearby country. It's possible. Everything is possible because veracity has become a very expensive commodity in Ghana when it comes to official statements about events that are happening. For Aisha want to be in a country and not to even be arrested upon presentation of her documents to enter the country is quite serious, because any ordinary, not famous, not previously known terrorist can enter the country under the same circumstances and blow up a building under the same circumstances. Everything a terrorist needs to use to destroy a big building in this country are already in the country. Fertilizers, for everything is already in the country. So we have to be very careful. But our national security apparatus, they seem to operate on political enemies or in the big cities but that's not where the issues are happening. And this issue has been pointed out to them by even a study. I was a PI for that, we presented it to them. So I think Aisha One actually blows open how weak our national security system really, really is.
Could it also be?
Whether Aisha One was deported or not, I don't believe that there's any doubt that she was deported. In deportation cases, there's always a limitation. We don't have any protocol about if you are deported for minor offense, how long you can stay away. If you are deported for a criminal offense, how long you can stay away. Normally, the timeline is about 2 years. So Aisha One stayed away allegedly for 2 years, and she's back. So because we don't have any legal structure maybe to actually organize deportation issues, Aisha One may not have committed any crime. And if there is no law that is making her re-entry criminal, you cannot prosecute her, really. So I think we are in a dance where nothing probably is going to happen at the tail end, because we have to look at this issue. It is both an international politics and international diplomacy. And when you are dealing with those things, I don't know why the Chinese ambassador has not stepped in. If in fact, Aisha One is a state operative, the way the woman is able to have a lot of money to do the things that she wants to do at a whim that she decides shows that she is connected. She's connected to money, she's connected to power. How she's connected, we need to understand it in all of its magnitude so that we can decode who Aisha One really, really is, because there is something unusual about her.
Apart from being connected to money and power, back then when this issue came up, we heard the likes of Kweku Baako, for instance, mention that there's a possibility that she has some tapes and a hold on some of the persons in higher authority. Do you allude to that? Do you think that is beyond just money and power that she has in terms of those who are supposed to precisely deal with the situation?
She may have sexual evidence also, because high-powered spies, oftentimes they use sex. We saw a case in the US with a Russian spy, Israeli spy, and so on and so forth. Aisha One cannot be operating without some serious think through. I believe that she's marginally beautiful, not my taste. But the Ghanaian man is weak before Oba Koko. And so if you are in a village and you get a Chinese woman, even if you are whatever it is you are, you get a Chinese woman for the night in a big hotel, there are a lot of Ghanaian men that will fall for that because they are very weak. And so if Aisha One has been able to acquire some kind of evidence against powerful men, because if I were her, that is exactly what I would do, then we have a very serious matter. I wish she would disclose this information to shame the people, unpatriotic Ghanaians, who are rather looking for a moment of ecstasy rather than looking for the interests of the country.
Well, that docket has been called. Do you think it will get anywhere?
She will use it as a bargaining chip, if in fact there is something like that there. and plea bargain her crime or charge very, very down to the lowest minimum, illegal entry.
Okay.
But to make that statement, you have to have a protocol that says that if you are deported without any crime, because she was deported without any crime, you cannot win this case.
Okay, we're grateful. Dr. Ishmael Norman, that's the CEO of Institute of Emergency and Disaster there. But in the last few minutes, we have a statement from the Chinese embassy. We've been working to get them on this. We'll get to that statement shortly. But ranking member on Parliament, okay, so we have that statement now. There's a remark by the spokesperson of the Chinese embassy, and it says the Chinese government has always requested Chinese citizens overseas to abide by the laws and regulations of the host country, firmly opposes Chinese citizens to engage in any illegal activities in any country, and supports the Ghanaian government to fight against illegal mining according to the law. We respect the Ghanaian side to deal with relevant case according to the law. We hope that the Ghanaian side fully safeguards the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese citizens. So that's what we have by way of a statement from the Chinese embassy on this. They are not available for further comments, but as and when we get them, we'll put some of these questions that have come up to them. But that's the statement. You can get more of that on myjoyonline.com. Now, the ranking member on Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, says Ghana's reputation has been severely damaged after fresh reports by the Auditor General says Ghana's Honorary Consul General in Houston, USA, failed to declare the full visa fees collected from applicants between 2018 and 2019. In its latest report, the Consul General was found to have collected $100 for each standard visa application, but only accounted for $60 to the state. Blessed Suga has been looking through that report. He joins me with details of this. I guess he's joining us via Zoom. Blessed, if you can hear me, what are the details of this particular infraction?
Emefa, the report is pointing out that based on the review of the Auditor General, activities at the Washington Mission and Houston Consulate showed that between September 2018 and then September 2019, the Honorary Consul General actually levied each visa applicant $100, and then we also have the option for $200. That's for express and then the rush service. But the indication we're getting is that the officials only accounted for $60 and then $100 for the 200 express service. So which means that some proceeds of $100 is not being accounted for as though they were actually regular services, and then the service personnel kept the difference of the $40 and then the $100 each from that application or the applications that came through that consul. Now, the Honorary Consul General, as we understand, between 2018 and then September 2019, collected a total amount of some $843,000. That's the expected amount. But in terms of what was accounted for, we're just having a shortfall. So all we have now is somewhere around $458,900. And that's what the Auditor General appears to have some challenges with.
And I'm sure we're working the lines to speak to the Foreign Affairs Ministry. You've been trying to do that all day. I'll find out what you were able to gather from them. But what exactly has the Auditor General done about this in terms of retrieval of the monies?
Well, it appears that not much has been done, but in terms of recommendations, the Auditor General is recommending that, and I just want to quote him, that we recommend, quote, that the head of the Chancery should recover the difference of $354,760 from the Honorary Consul General, failing which the amount should be recovered from the head of the Chancery. So the liability now is on the head of the Chancery if we're not able to get the Consul General retrieve the amount.
And it's unclear if that money has been retrieved.
We're not sure, and we wait to see what the official position of the Foreign Ministry will be.
Thank you very much, Blessed. Meanwhile, commenting on the matter, Samuel Kujetua Blakwa, that's the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, says despite several assurances by the Foreign Affairs Ministry that the practice will be stopped, has proven futile. He says the image of the country has been damaged, hence the need for the authorities to crack the whip.
Yeah, definitely. I must commend the Auditor General for the thorough work that he has done. Before this Auditor General's report, I have had occasion to file questions for the Foreign Minister. There have been a number of concerns from applicants, our visa applicants, those in search of Ghanaian visas abroad, particularly in places like the US, the UK, and Germany. And the Foreign Minister assured at the time, if you go through the parliamentary Hansard, that they were taking steps. I recall that even in the case of New York, in the New York mission in the US, they set up a committee, and I think a few officials, foreign service officials, were sanctioned. It does appear from what the Auditor General is reporting that the practice continues, and so the Foreign Ministry will have to deepen and broaden their response. Clearly, what was done earlier when they responded to my urgent parliamentary question does not appear to have totally and fully addressed this unfortunate development, which really mars the image of our country within the Committee of Nations.
Well, the infractions and dissipation of state funds discovered in the latest Auditor General's report is one which Ghanaians have expressed outrage about. Here are some of them speaking to Joy News in Accra.
I think it's quite troubling when leaders in positions actually aren't up to what they're tasked to do, in the sense that probably resources given to them, instead of it being used for what it's meant for, rather they would use it for their personal needs or personal interests. And that, at the end, makes we, the a normal person, suffer the most. And yeah, it's not fair. So, in my opinion, it's actually a good thing. And I think they should set measures in that can actually check records that this was meant for this and was actually used for this. So if that's done, I think, yeah, in a way there should be an improvement. Yeah.
Created from income taxes and all other sources of funds must be well channeled into fields that will help in developing the country. So here is the case that the funds are not being used for what it's supposed to be used for. And now it is being spent on other things which we do not know about. So I think the best solution to solving corruption is transparency and a proper system of accountability. And I think with that, we'll be able to know where our funds go, what our funds are being used for. And with that, everybody will be held accountable for what he or she does in his or her ministry. Yes.
The leaders themselves must make their mind that this thing must stop. If I make up my mind, this thing, I will stop her. I am doing it. I am saying I will stop this. Nothing can prevent me from doing it or from stopping something like that. So I think they must discipline themselves. The leaders themselves must discipline themselves.
We'll take a quick break here on Joy News Prime. Still to come, unregistered SIM card users begin to experience interruptions from service providers as the Communications Minister supports immediate and then also later full sanctions by the National Communications Authority. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, if you're experiencing interruptions, don't tamper with your phone. It is because you are yet to register your SIM card. Guess what? It will get worse at the end of September 2022 because the Ministry of Communications, Eslo Usuekofo, has thrown her weight behind the immediate and later full-scope sanctions to be applied by the National Communications Authority. Currently, outgoing calls and data services for persons who have not even started the process will be blocked for 2 days every every week, and then subsequently it will be almost impossible to use your current SIM card. But there are growing concerns about the effectiveness and efficiency of the app made available for registration to be done. That is, if you've been able to obtain your Ghana card, which is the only identification required. Policy think tank Imani Africa has described the move as draconian, considering a large chunk of the population is yet to obtain the Ghana card. Solomon Brantier is Vice President in charge of strategy at Imani Africa.
So for some of us, this whole process is being rushed unnecessarily. The issue here is that we are behaving as if the Ghana card is something that is issued instantly. You are talking about a very seismic change in the way we are going to be registering our SIM cards. For any process that is planned in this way, one of the first things that you have to look at is what we call dependencies. Now, we are in a situation where the major dependency for registering a SIM card or re-registering a SIM card under this new mandate is a Ghana card. It is not a given. Those processing their Ghana cards can get it instantly. I'll tell you something. Somewhere in May, I wanted to get a new Ghana card because the original one I had got missing. When I went, right in front of me, there were many people who were given appointment dates of September 24th to come for their data to be captured. Note, this is not for them to come for their cards. As of May, they were supposed to come September 24th for their data to be captured. So there are people who, by first principles, cannot even continue their stage one. And you are going to say that because of a totally different process, they are going to be disenfranchised. And I think this is draconian, and this is not the right way to run a national program. I am sorry, but we are being very recalcitrant and pig-headed with this kind of.
But Director of Consumer and Corporate Communications at NCA, Nana Dufie-Bedu, insists they will go ahead with a policy despite the concerns raised.
Yes, we are. We are going ahead to fully enforce the directives. And I think it's important for us to say or note that we have been working with the mobile network operators on this. We gave the directives. We worked with them on how best to implement these directives, looking at their network and the capabilities of their networks.
But what will you tell those who say that you are being harsh with your decision?
Well, I think that we need to look at what has happened in the past. If we recall, on the 31st of July, when the minister had her press conference, one of the things she mentioned was that anytime the deadline was approaching, we would see people rushing to go and register their SIM cards. Right after an extension is announced, then the momentum goes down. We hardly ever see anybody going to register their SIM cards. So what the minister put in place was a conditional extension where people would be able to as it were, feel a little bit of a pressure and be pushed to ensure that they have finished or they have completed the SIM registration.
But how are the sanctions being implemented?
Well, the sanctions are being implemented as Engineer Ashibe has mentioned, that for people who have not done the stage one and people who have done the stage one, we see them as people who have not registered the SIM, because to claim that you have registered the SIM, you should have completed stage one and stage two of the SIM registration process. And it is being implemented from now until the 30th of September, after which all unregistered SIMs will be taken off the networks.
It appears she has the support of the Communications Ministry, and in the last few hours we had a statement from the Communications Minister on her Facebook page, and she says, I informed the media during my most recent meeting that the SIM registration exercise will not be extended past September 30. After evaluation at the end of August, it's been determined that starting the disciplinary steps outlined in the NCA press release is prudent. Additionally, any SIM that has not yet been completely registered will be unable to use voice and internet services. Afterward, using unregistered SIMs will be more expensive. At a subsequent press conference in September, the full scope of the sanctions will be revealed. If you have suffered that fate as a result of your own inaction, kindly do not blame your service provider. And she adds that to be forewarned is to be forearmed. That's the Communications Minister's post there on Facebook earlier today. So if you are experiencing those interruptions in your service, like I said, no need to tamper with your phone because you have not registered fully. Shortly, a host of the Geek Squad, Spiky, will be joining me so that we take a look at this particular app. If you've tried to use it, what you found and how it looked like. We'll get through it. Most of you have been using it. What did you find? How effective is this particular app amongst others? We'll be taking a look at it shortly here on Joy News Prime. Thanks for sticking with us. Let's get on to the phone lines before I bring Spiky in. And we have a member of the Communications Committee of Parliament, Mr. Sam George, joining us on the phone lines. We are grateful for your time here on the Joy News Prime. To start with, have you been able to finally get your Ghana card?
Well, good evening, Emefa. Unfortunately not, because I've made the point that I want to see the members of my constituents who have registered since February, March of this year in the Pram office who have still not gotten their cards, get their cards. I do not understand why the NIA would want to be able to produce a card for me in 24 hours as MP. And my constituents who voted for me still do not have their cards.
Okay.
They should produce the cards for my constituents. And the point again is people are getting dates in October. So if people are being asked to come in October, why am I being given the opportunity to register today?
Okay.
Everyone must be treated equally. And so until I see the NIA produce all the outstanding cards and then go pram, as my protest, we will not be taking opportunity of a protocol service. Everyone must be treated equally.
It means that you've still not registered your card, your SIM card just yet. And from what we're hearing, at least, we've started hearing from some users who have started experiencing interruptions in their service, like the NCA said, and they have the full support of the minister to do that. Twice a week, your SIM will not work. I don't know if you started experiencing it.
That's the illegality of a government official and a government institution. You have a government institution that is acting illegally, that is perpetrating an illegality, supported by the irresponsibility of the Minister for Communication, and everybody seems to be sitting aloof and watching. But I mean, we will be testing that in the next few days, because, and I've served notice that the minister can choose to use her administrative powers in the manner in which she uses, but she should not cry foul when we also, as members of the minority, choose to also use our parliamentary powers and privileges to refuse to hear her budget for 2023. Because if she's going to be punishing my constituents, I would take reciprocal action on behalf of my constituents by ensuring that her budget is not heard by the committee.
For some, that can be described as blackmailing, but the concern
it's
is
not
that...
blackmail. If the minister is acting irresponsibly and illegally, and we've spent the past, since October last year, we've tried to talk reason. Technical people have explained to her why her route is wrong, but she's recalcitrant. When you have a recalcitrant child, you use what the Bible says, the rod of correction. And so if we're giving her all the opportunities to engage with stakeholders, and she wants to ride roughshod, we will meet her, be it hell or high water, in Parliament. That much I can assure her. And it's not an empty threat. We did it last year. Last year she came, we kicked her out of the committee. It took her 24 hours to present 3 reports that we were asking for before we had her. And this time, she can turn off our SIM card. Government will lose revenue, but she shouldn't expect us. If I don't have a SIM card, you can't call me to a meeting to come and have... you find me in Pram Pram. Bring your reports to Pram Pram, where I'll be sitting with my constituents. But then if that's the approach she wants, we will go down that route with her.
But at what point...
Let's be careful about one thing. The fact that the NC and the ministry are giving a directive doesn't mean it is right. And just this week, we've been vindicated in one case. Last year, the minister was trying to introduce conditional access, such that any Ghanaian who wanted to watch TV sets in Ghana would have to pay a fee to be able to watch a conditional access. The NTA had issued a directive on that. We supported Giba. As the minority, we opposed it, supported Giba and asked Giba to go to court. The courts have ruled. Again, we cited that the Constitution did not allow the minister to do what she was doing. Giba went to court. The courts have ruled. Judgment was given on Monday against the NCA and the ministry that their actions were illegal. So you have evidence of the NCA, the current leadership of the NCA and the current leadership of the ministry acting illegally and perpetrating illegality on the Ghanaian people.
Well, but the concern is, as a lawmaker, at what point in time would you say that your constituents and yourself should start abiding by directives from ministries and agencies?
We will abide by the directive when we see that the NIA is able to provide everyone who wants to go and get a card. Anyone who goes there, applies for the card and gets the card and does not register.
But don't forget, there are those who have it and simply have decided not to register.
So you know what, Emefa, I'll tell you what. To show you how insensitive and how lazy the logic of the minister's directive is, you have persons who are incapacitated by virtue of health. They are bedridden. But these are persons who rely on their phones to make phone calls to their caregivers from their room whilst they are in their rooms. Such individuals have been unable to go to an NIA office to register their SIM card. You are deactivating their SIM cards because the person is incapacitated and can't go to the NIA. That person previously would have had a voter's ID card or a passport.
Okay.
And that's why people have said, do not restrict the registration documents to only the Ghana card.
Okay.
Allow persons use any other card that can be verified and authenticated by the NIA. And you know,
unfortunately, that's all time will allow us for now. We're grateful indeed. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us this evening. Let me bring in Kobe Spike Nkrumah. Let's test the effectiveness and efficiency of this particular app. You've been checking on it. How does it look like?
So that's what it looks like on the screen. Unfortunately, I can't cast the actual app because of security policies in the app, so I can't show it on the screen. It'll just give you, and I can't even take screenshots. But when you get to you register first, you enter your full name, your birth date, first your phone number. Once you're done, you will go through the process where you have to basically register. So in the SIM registration over here, you would choose your identification type. I'm surprised that they actually have choices, although it's just one.
It's just a Ghana
but
card.
It means that, there could be the possibility of another means of registration.
Maybe you should test it and then later
use
another ID card and let's see if it
but that's the only drop-down option you're given,
right.
Ghana card. Then you choose your network provider. In my case, for the phone, enter my phone number. I've already registered, so this would not be worth anything.
Okay.
And then you're asked to enter a unique code. I don't know if this unique code was generated prior or something, but basically you enter that there and you have to make payment. So you enter the phone number where you're going to make the payment, i.e. if it's going to be from Vodafone or MTN.
So this is the second stage, because the first stage you would have done it on your phone.
Exactly.
I'm sure that's where you get
right.
that
Yes.
code
So that's
from,
where you
and
get
then
a
you
code,
enter it.
and then you enter
Okay,
it.
but there are concerns that people say that it doesn't really, work as fast as they expect it to. I don't know if you experienced that whilst you were registering.
Well, I registered when.
Okay, you didn't get to.
I asked all my friends who hadn't
Okay.
registered, anybody, but then unfortunately for me, they'd all registered. But I know you're supposed to, take a photo of your passport or your ID, and then verify. Basically, I think it's Ghana card, and you verify the information that was obtained from the scan, and you capture your face, you capture your fingerprints, and you complete the verification process.
Okay.
So when you're done, you see this page where it has your full name, date of birth, gender, nationality, and the document number. So that's the one that you scan your Ghana card, and that's it.
Okay, so at least if you have your Ghana card, you ought to register at this point, but there are concerns about the unavailability of the Ghana card. And I don't know if you know people who started experiencing interruptions in their services because they have not registered.
I haven't met anyone so far.
I've met two, at least. My colleagues in the newsroom, they started experiencing those interruptions. Thank you very much, Kobe. Today's edition of Joy News Prime. I am Emefa Apawu. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com.